Welcome to Storyetional, where chilling tales take you to the edge of your imagination. Subscribe now, and let's dive into the darkness together and the sleepy town of Ravenwood, nestled between the dark, foreboding mountains, where the air was heavy with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. There lived a young girl named Lily. She was 10, with wild, curly hair the color of chestnuts and a spirit as boundless as the sky. Her smile could light up a room, but it was the companionship of her scruffy, brown mutt, Max, that brought her the most profound joy. Every day, after the morning sun had risen over the treetops, Lily would hurry home from school to join Max in the woods behind her house. The woods were a place of wonder, where ancient trees stretched toward the sky like skeletal sentinels, their branches weaving a canopy of leaves that filtered the sunlight and cast eerie, emerald shadows on the forest floor. Here, Lily and Max explored the world without the constraints of adult supervision, laughing and chasing after sticks as they wandered deeper into the woods. But lately, a subtle change had crept into their idyllic world at first. It was just a feeling, a nagging sense that something was off. Lily couldn't quite put her finger on it, but her usually reliable intuition was warning her that something was amiss. Max, too, seemed to be behaving strangely. He was quiet, too quiet, and his usual exuberance had given way to a brooding, sullen demeanor. When she tried to play with him, he would turn away, his dark, soulful eyes fixed on something beyond her sight. And sometimes, late at night, when the house was quiet and Lily lay in bed, she would swear she heard the distant, mournful howling of a wolf or the low, ominous growl of some other animal. One rainy evening, as the storm outside intensified, Lily found herself drawn to their usual spot, an old, gnarled oak tree that stood sentinel over the forest like a wise and ancient giant. The tree's branches creaked and swayed in the gusty wind, its leaves rustling and whispering secrets on the breeze that Lily could almost make out. Max followed her, his movements eerily silent for a dog so large and boisterous. As they reached the tree, Lily called his name, trying to rouse him from his trance-like state. "Max, what's wrong?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "What's going on with you?" But Max didn't respond. He simply stood there, his eyes fixed on some point beyond her, his tail hanging limply at his side. Lily felt a shiver run down her spine as she realized that his eyes had changed, too. They seemed darker, more piercing, and they seemed to bore into her very soul. Suddenly, the wind died, the rain ceased, and an unearthly silence fell over the forest. The only sound was the creaking of the oak tree, its branches swaying in the darkness like skeletal fingers. And then, as if in response to Lily's question, Max spoke. "Lily." His voice was low, husky, and it sent shivers down Lily's spine. It was a voice she had never heard before, a voice that seemed to come from beyond the grave. "Listen." But before Lily could respond, a faint rustling noise began to echo through the forest. It sounded like the distant sound of leaves crunching, or maybe even the soft crunch of footsteps. "What is that?" Lily whispered, her eyes scanning the darkness around them. But Max just stood there, his eyes fixed on her with an unblinking stare, his tail twitching ever so slightly. And then, out of the corner of her eye, Lily saw something move. It was a dark, shadowy figure, its edges indistinct, its face hidden in the darkness. The figure moved closer, its presence making the air grow colder, heavier. Lily felt her heart racing, her breath quickening. She knew, deep down, that something was terribly wrong, but she couldn't explain what it was. As the figure drew closer, Lily could see that it was tall, imposing, and it seemed to be made of some sort of dark, misty material that seemed to shift and writhe like a living thing. The figure loomed over Max, its presence making the dog cower and whimper. And then, in a voice that sent shivers down Lily's spine, the figure spoke. "Welcome, little one," it whispered. "We've been waiting for you." Lily tried to move, to run away, but her legs seemed rooted to the spot. The figure loomed closer, its eyes glowing with an otherworldly light that seemed to pierce right through her very soul. "Who are you?" Lily whispered, her voice trembling with fear. But the figure just smiled, its lips curling into a cruel, mirthless grin. "We're the ones who have been watching you, who have been guiding you," it whispered. "And now, it's time for you to join us." As Lily stood there, frozen in terror, the figure reached out and touched Max on the head. The dog yelped in pain, its eyes flashing with a feral, animalistic light. And then, as Lily watched in horror, Max began to change. His body began to twist and writhe, his fur rippling and flowing like liquid. His eyes turned yellow, glowing like two hot coals in the darkness, and his jaws opened wide, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth that seemed to gleam with an otherworldly light. Lily screamed, her voice echoing through the forest as she tried to run away. But it was too late. The darkness had closed in around her, and she was trapped. And then, everything went black. When Lily came to, she was lying on the forest floor, her head throbbing with pain. Max was still standing next to her, but he was different. His eyes seemed to have taken on a malevolent, evil glow that seemed to pierce right through her soul. As she looked up, she saw the figure standing over her, its eyes blazing with an otherworldly light. "Lily," it whispered, "you're one of us now. Welcome to the family." Lily screamed, her voice echoing through the forest as she realized that she was trapped in some sort of living nightmare. But as she looked at Max, she knew that she was not alone. The darkness had consumed her, and she was now a part of it. And as the figure reached out to take her hand, Lily knew that she was doomed. Are you brave enough to continue? If you're enjoying this tale, make sure to subscribe to Storyational for more terrifying stories that keep you awake at night. As the days passed, Lily found herself trapped in a world of darkness, where the lines between reality and madness were blurred. She was haunted by visions of the figure, and Max seemed to be watching her every move with an unblinking gaze. She tried to escape, but the woods seemed to shift and twist around her, leading her deeper into the heart of the forest. And then, one night, Lily stumbled upon a hidden clearing, surrounded by ancient, glowing trees that seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy. In the center of the clearing stood a large, stone statue of a figure that seemed to be made of the same dark, misty material as the figure that haunted her dreams. As she approached the statue, Lily felt a presence behind her. She turned to see Max standing there, his eyes glowing like hot coals in the darkness. And then, in a voice that sent shivers down her spine, he spoke. "Lily," he whispered, "we have a ritual to perform. A dark ritual, one that will bind us together forever." Lily tried to run, but Max was too quick. He caught her, holding her in a vice-like grip as the darkness closed in around her. And then, everything went black. When Lily came to, she was lying on the forest floor, her head throbbing with pain. But as she looked up, she saw the figure standing over her, its eyes blazing with an otherworldly light. "Lily," it whispered, "you're one of us now. Welcome to the family." But as Lily looked around, she realized that something was off. The forest seemed to be shifting. The trees seemed to be moving, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. And then she saw it. A group of children, all of them with eyes glowing like hot coals in the darkness. They were all staring at her, their faces twisted into cruel, malevolent grins. And then, Lily realized that she was not alone. The darkness had consumed her, and she was now a part of it. As the figure reached out to take her hand, Lily knew that she was doomed. But as she looked around, she saw something that made her heart skip a beat. Max was not the only one who had been changed. The children, the forest, even the trees themselves seemed to be under some sort of dark, supernatural influence. And then, Lily realized that she was not just a victim. She was a pawn in a much larger game, a game of darkness and evil that seemed to stretch far beyond the borders of the forest. This story is just beginning. Don't forget to subscribe to Storyational and never miss a nightmarish tale like this one. As the days passed, Lily found herself trapped in a world of darkness, where the lines between reality and madness were blurred. She was haunted by visions of the figure, and the children seemed to be watching her every move with an unblinking gaze. She tried to escape, but the woods seemed to shift and twist around her, leading her deeper into the heart of the forest. And then, one night, Lily stumbled upon a hidden clearing, surrounded by ancient, glowing trees that seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy. In the center of the clearing stood a large, stone statue of a figure that seemed to be made of the same dark, misty material as the figure that haunted her dreams. As she approached the statue, Lily felt a presence behind her. She turned to see the figure standing there, its eyes blazing with an otherworldly light. "Lily," it whispered, "it's time to join us. Are you ready to give up your soul?" Lily tried to run, but the figure was too quick. It reached out and touched her on the forehead, and everything went black. When Lily came to, she was lying in a strange, dimly lit room, surrounded by figures that seemed to be made of the same dark, misty material as the figure that haunted her dreams. And then she saw it, a large stone altar at the far end of the room, and on it lay a strange, glowing artifact that seemed to be pulsing with a malevolent energy. The figure approached her, its eyes blazing with an otherworldly light. "Lily," it whispered, "this is your final ritual. You must give up your soul, and we will grant you unimaginable power." Lily tried to resist, but it was too late. The figure reached out and touched her on the forehead once more, and everything went black as the darkness closed in around her. Lily realized that she was trapped in some sort of supernatural nightmare. And then, she heard the voice, a low, husky voice that seemed to come from the very depths of her own soul. "Welcome to the family, little one," it whispered. "We've been waiting for you." And then, everything went black. But as Lily lay there, trapped in the darkness, she knew that she was not alone. The figure, Max, and the children were all watching her, waiting for her to give up her soul. And then she saw it, a glimmer of light in the distance, a light that seemed to be calling to her, beckoning her toward Aria as she reached out. Lily realized that she was not a victim. She was a pawn in a much larger game, a game of darkness and evil that seemed to stretch far beyond the borders of the forest. And then, everything went black. When Lily came to, she was lying on the forest floor, her head throbbing with pain. But as she looked around, she saw something that made her heart skip a beat. The forest was quiet, the trees still. And then she saw it, a figure standing in the distance, a figure that seemed to be made of the same dark, misty material as the figure that haunted her dreams. As she watched, the figure began to move closer, its eyes blazing with an otherworldly light. And then, Lily realized that she was not alone. The figure, Max, and the children were all watching her, waiting for her to give up her soul. And then, everything went black as Lily lay there, trapped in the darkness. She knew that she was not alone. The figure, Max, and the children were all watching her, waiting for her to give up her soul. And then she saw it, a glimmer of light in the distance, a light that seemed to be calling to her, beckoning her toward Aria as she reached out. Lily realized that she was not a victim. She was a pawn in a much larger game, a game of darkness and evil that seemed to stretch far beyond the borders of the forest. And then, everything went black. But as Lily lay there, trapped in the darkness, she knew that she was not alone. The figure, Max, and the children were all watching her, waiting for her to give up her soul. And then she saw it, a glimmer of light in the distance, a light that seemed to be calling to her, beckoning her toward Aria as she reached out. Lily realized that she was not a victim. She was a pawn in a much larger game, a game of darkness and evil that seemed to stretch far beyond the borders of the forest. And then, everything went black. But as Lily lay there, trapped in the darkness, she knew that she was not alone. The figure, Max, and the children were all watching her, waiting for her to give up her soul. And then she saw it, a glimmer of light in the distance, a light that seemed to be calling to her, beckoning her toward Aria as she reached out. Lily realized that she was not a victim. She was a pawn in a much larger game, a game of darkness and evil that seemed to stretch far beyond the borders of the forest. And then, everything went black. But as Lily lay there, trapped in the darkness, she knew that she was not alone. The figure, Max, and the children were all watching her, waiting for her to give up her soul. And then she saw it, a glimmer of light in the distance, a light that seemed to be calling to her, beckoning her toward Aria as she reached out. Lily realized that she was not a victim. She was a pawn in a much larger game, a game of darkness and evil that seemed to stretch far beyond the borders of the forest. And then, everything went black. But as Lily lay there, trapped in the darkness, she knew that she was not alone. The figure, Max, and the children were all watching her, waiting for her to give up her soul. And then she saw it, a glimmer of light in the distance, a light that seemed to be calling to her, beckoning her toward Aria as she reached out. Lily realized that she was not a victim. She was a pawn in a much larger game, a game of darkness and evil that seemed to stretch far beyond the borders of the forest. And then, everything went black. But as Lily lay there, trapped in the darkness, she knew that she was not alone. Lily stood at the edge of the clearing, trembling as moonlight spilled through the ancient trees, casting ghostly beams across the ground. Max sat beside her, his figure shrouded in shadow, eyes gleaming with an unnatural light. She could feel the weight of something intangible, something heavy and dark lurking just beyond her sight. It was as if the woods themselves held their breath, waiting for her next move. "Please," she whispered, looking down at her beloved dog. "Come back to me. You're not this, whatever you've become." Max tilted his head, the glow in his eyes flickering, almost as if he were contemplating her words. "Lily, my dear, I'm much more than what you see. You feel it too, don't you? The power that waits just beneath the surface.
No.
This isn't you, she cried out, desperation clawing at her heart. The warmth, the laughter they had once shared felt like a distant memory, replaced by a chilling uncertainty. In that moment, echoes of laughter filled the clearing, and Lily turned to see the children from her nightmares. Their faces familiar yet warped, their eyes glowing a vivid yellow that sent chills racing down her spine. They stepped forward, surrounding her, forming a barrier between her and the safety of home. Join us, Lily. One of them, a boy with wild hair and a wicked smile, said, It's so much fun in the dark. You'll understand once you've embraced it. As they spoke, shadows danced around them, merging with the trees, entwining themselves in the very fabric of the night. Lily stumbled back, pressing her back against the rough bark of the ancient oak. Her eyes darted from one child to another, searching for the friendship she once knew among them. You're nothing like the kids I grew up with, she shouted, trying to hold on to the girl she used to be. What have you done? Nothing has been done to us, Lily. The girl with silver braids laughed. We've simply opened our eyes to what lies beyond. There's power in darkness, in embracing the primal forces that govern this world. You should join us. Max padded closer, his form flickering between canine and something altogether more sinister. Lily, they're offering you freedom. Think of what we could achieve together. His voice now held a melodic, hypnotic quality that tugged at her resolve. Freedom, she repeated, bewildered. This is nightmare. The boy with wild hair stepped forward, tilting his head. What if we told you that fear is merely a choice? You could choose to embrace what is, to dissolve the boundaries of normalcy. We just want to show you how. Lily shook her head fiercely, fight boiling within her despite the terror sweeping over her. How can you want this? How can you betray the light we had? A heavy silence enveloped the clearing, and the winds whispered through the trees, carrying with them an ancient sorrow. Suddenly, the dark figure rematerialized, looming behind the children, an embodiment of the very shadows that threatened to consume her. Enough of this, it hissed, its voice like a gust of echoing wind. You all will join us, willingly or not. Here we have power. Here we are free. In that moment, terror gripped her heart, but something else ignited within. Resolve, clarity amidst chaos. No longer would she be a pawn in this sinister game. Max, she shouted, her voice cutting through the shadowy murmurings. This isn't you. Fight it. As if struck by lightning, the dog paused, his eyes widening for a brief moment before narrowing again in shadowy rage. Inside, Lily could sense the flicker of the pet she adored, battling against a torrent of darkness. The children began to circle closer, their chants rising, drowning out her pleas. She felt the pull from the shadows, tugging at her limbs, urging her to relinquish control. But no, not now, not ever. With a fierce determination, Lily dug into her pocket and withdrew a small object. It was a charm her grandmother had given her, a simple trinket meant to guard against evil, an unassuming piece of polished wood, carved into the shape of a heart. With her hands trembling, she raised it high, feeling its warmth pulse against her palm. Leave us alone, she shouted, her voice a battle cry against the suffocating darkness, and to her astonishment, the charm glowed, illuminating the clearing in a brilliant light that pushed back the tendrils of shadow that coiled around her. Gasps filled the air, the children recoiling as the brightness pierced through the night. Lily, Max barked, caught between loyalty to her and the insidiously dark influence that clawed at him. Resist them. But instead, Lily took a step forward, holding the charm firmly, channeling everything she felt into its small form. Max, she cried again, her heart breaking. Please, come back to me. The glow intensified, drawing Max's attention, the spell binding him momentarily wavering. The children screamed, a dissonant chorus undermined by the pull of the light. Lily, Max's voice, laced with pain and confusion, broke through, fuller now. I can feel you. Fight it, Max. I know you're in there. Remember our adventures. The love? Fight. Please, come back. In that instant, the darkness seemed to cave in, battling against the heart charm's glow. Shadows writhed, twisting violently as the figure melded with the gloom, fury distorting its features.
No.
You belong to us? It howled, frustration echoing like thunder. But Lily pressed on, tears streaming down her face as sincerity poured from her heart. I choose love over darkness. I reject this. With her declaration, the light expanded, flooding the clearing as if the dawn had suddenly broken in the midst of night. Max gasped, shaking violently as light poured over him like a cleansing wave. No, no, you can't, the shadow hissed, arms raised desperately, but Lily's will was unwavering. The warmth enveloped Max, his form shifting grotesquely for a moment before a spark ignited in his eyes, the true Max flickering within the depths of darkness. He howled, a sound filled with anguish mixed with newfound clarity, and leaped toward her. Lily! His voice was back, broken but resolute. Don't give up. I'm fighting. The children screamed as the light enveloped them too, their forms disintegrating into glimmers of dark dust. The figure writhed within the glow, but the brilliance radiated with insatiable courage, pushing back against the tide of shadows. The clearing erupted with a cacophony, a battle of wills in a realm where darkness sought to claim light, but Lily stood defiant, no longer a pawn in this twisted game. Lily felt a warmth wash over her as Max stood by her side, the shadows receding. Your light has reached me, he said, panting, the glow in his eyes blending with a renewed purpose. Together, he declared, we can resist them. The figure roared, its voice now a tempest of both rage and fear. You will watch as all you cherish falls apart. This is only the beginning. As the last remnants of darkness pulled away into the abyss, the clearing began to settle, the air no longer thick with malice. The trees, once living shadows, returned to their ancient grandeur, guardians of the forest, no longer ensnared by the twisted influence of fear. Lily breathed heavily, her heart racing as she looked down at the charm, still glowing faintly in her grasp. We did it, Max. We pushed them back. For the first time in a long while, he wagged his tail, though it was weak, the torque of the darkness still evident on his form. We're not safe yet, Lil, but we're stronger together. As they began to retreat from the clearing, growing certainty filled Lily. The woods had changed. She could feel it was a fragile truce, but within her chest, she sensed a lingering pulse of darkness, a reminder that the struggle was far from over. In the distance, the trees rustled as if whispering secrets, tales of a battle fought and won. Yet she couldn't shake the feeling that entities still lingered, darkness still crouching at the edges of light. No longer would she live in fear. They would forge ahead, seeking understanding and connection over isolation and despair. Max, she said, looking up at him, we need to tell others. We need to help them understand how to fight against this darkness. Yes, he agreed, his eyes brightening. But we must do it carefully. They'll come back. They always do. Adventure called them forward, two brave souls against an unseen tide. Together, they would face whatever awaited them on the other side, knowing they could always reclaim their love, their bond, and their very souls from the clutches of darkness. As Lily stepped forward, determination ablaze in her heart. An unexpected crack in the earth gave way, revealing a path leading deeper into the forest. Uncertainty trembled on the edge of possibility, a new beginning filled with shadows and light. This story is just starting to unfold. Don't forget to subscribe to Storyetional to ensure you never miss the edge of your seat tales that breathe life into fears. As they ventured deeper into the forest, the trees grew taller and the air thickened with an eerie silence. Lily could feel the weight of the forest's gaze, as if the very woods themselves were watching her every move. Max, still struggling to regain his footing, kept close by her side. The path wound through the underbrush, leading them to a clearing where a massive stone monument loomed. Inscriptions etched into its surface seemed to shimmer in the fading light, telling a story of an ancient civilization that had once thrived here. This is the Hearttree, Lily said, her voice barely above a whisper. Legend has it that this place holds the secrets of the forest and its people. Max nodded, his tail wagging weakly as he gazed up at the monument. You think this might hold the key to understanding what's happening to us, to the forest? Lily hesitated, her mind racing with questions. I don't know, but we have to try. We can't keep running from this. We have to confront it head-on. As they approached the monument, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was an old woman, her hair as white as the bark of the ancient trees, her eyes shining with a deep wisdom. Welcome, child, the woman said, her voice gentle as a summer breeze. I have been waiting for you. You have come to learn the secrets of the Hearttree. Lily nodded, her heart pounding with excitement. Yes, please. We need to understand what's happening to us, to the forest. The old woman smiled, her eyes crinkling at the corners. Ah, but first you must first understand yourselves. The secrets of the Hearttree are not just about the forest, but about the heart of humanity itself. Max growled, his hackles raised. What do you mean? The old woman's eyes glinted with amusement. Come, child, and learn. With that, she beckoned them to follow her, leading them to a small cave hidden behind the monument. Inside, the air was cool and damp, and the scent of old books and parchment filled the air. This is the library of the Hearttree, the old woman said, gesturing to shelves upon shelves of ancient tomes. Here, you will find the secrets of the forest, of humanity, and of the heart itself. Lily's eyes widened as she gazed upon the books, her fingers itching to touch the ancient pages. Where do I start? The old woman chuckled. Start with the heart of darkness and light. That is where your journey will begin. As they delved into the library, Lily and Max discovered that the books were not just mere stories, but gateways to different realms, each holding a piece of the puzzle that was their struggle against the forces of darkness. They spent hours poring over the books, learning about the secrets of the forest, about the ancient civilizations that had once thrived here, and about the mysteries of the human heart. But as the night wore on, Lily began to feel a creeping sense of unease. It was as if the darkness was watching her, waiting for her to let her guard down. She glanced over at Max, who was curled up beside her, his eyes closed. I think we should be careful, she whispered to the old woman. We don't know what we're up against. The old woman's eyes flickered with a warning. You are not the only ones who seek the knowledge of the Hearttree. There are those who would stop at nothing to claim its secrets for themselves. Lily's heart quickened, her senses on high alert. Who? The old woman's face turned grave. The Shadow Hand. They are an ancient order, sworn to protect the secrets of the Hearttree at all costs. But their zeal has turned to madness, and they will stop at nothing to claim its power for themselves. As the old woman spoke, the air in the cave began to shift, the shadows deepening and twisting into dark, living tendrils. Lily's heart pounded in her chest as she realized that they were not alone in the library. The Shadow Hand had found them. The darkness shifted ominously, and the hiss of whispers echoed through the cave as silhouettes emerged from the shadows, cloaked in tattered black robes. The members of the Shadow Hand had found them, their faces obscured by hoods, but the malevolence in their presence was undeniable. Lily felt her breath catch in her throat. She instinctively stepped closer to Max, feeling his warmth beside her, a tether to reality amidst the encroaching dread. Stand down, one of the figures commanded, a voice rich and velvety, but laced with an unyielding authority. You disturb the secrets of the Hearttree. No. We seek understanding, not conflict, Lily called out, surprising herself with the strength of her voice. If you want to protect the Hearttree, we can help. The figures murmured amongst themselves, their forms swirling like wraiths in the dark. And then, from the group, a figure stepped forward, pulling back his hood to reveal a strikingly familiar face. It was Tom, a childhood friend of Lily's who had gone missing years ago. Tom, she gasped, her heart racing. What are you doing here? A flicker of uncertainty crossed his face, drowned quickly by the mask of seriousness he wore. Lily, you should not be here. This place is dangerous. What happened to you? She pressed, taking a tentative step closer. You were lost. We thought you were gone forever. Tom looked deeply troubled, glancing back at the cloaked figures that surrounded him. The Shadow Hand is a powerful order, and they have their own agenda. There's so much you don't understand. We delve into the forest's secrets to protect it, but we also seek power. I didn't know what I was getting into. Then help us, Lily pleaded, her voice raw with emotion. We need to know why the darkness is rising. We can't let it consume everything. He hesitated, eyes darting to the elders, who watched with hawkish intensity. I'll try. Before anyone could stop him, he stepped away from the group, crossing the threshold of the shadows that held him captive. The tension in the cave thickened, every cloak tightening around its wearer as they sensed a betrayal beginning to unravel. Tom, one of the other Shadow Hand members hissed, advancing towards him. You are a traitor. This knowledge is not to be shared with the unworthy. It is unworthy to hoard the Hearttree's knowledge for yourself, Tom countered, standing firm. The darkness threatens not just the forest, but the balance of our world. We could do so much more if we fought together. The cloaked figures murmured angrily, hands reaching for weapons hidden beneath their robes. But Lily felt a surge of courage, inspired by her friend's defiance. "Tom is right," Lily shouted, her heart racing. "We need to band together. If you care for this place, if you truly wish to protect it, you have to face why the darkness is creeping in. You can't hide behind power." For a moment, the tension hung heavily in the air. The robed figures exchanged glances, uncertainty flickering in their eyes. They were caught between old loyalties and the possibility of a new alliance. Tom stepped closer to Lily, his expression earnest. "We can uncover the truth together. If we combine our knowledge, we might defeat the darkness rather than perpetuate cycles of fear and secrecy." "Enough of this," the original figure snapped, stepping forward, revealing a face that was sharp and cruel, eyes gleaming with an unsettling light. "You underestimate the power of the Hearttree, and you underestimate my resolve, child." Suddenly, he drew a hardened weapon, forged of dark metal and pulsing with a sinister energy. "We will not allow your naivete to unravel our order. You are either with us or against us. Choose now." Lily could feel the tension break like a thunderstorm ready to unleash torrents. But she could also feel Tom's presence beside her. He believed in her. If she did not act now, they might lose everything they'd fought for. "Then we choose," Lily shouted, taking a bold step forward, a fierce flame of determination igniting in her chest. "We choose unity against darkness. We face the shadow together." As her words rang out, something shifted in the shadows, a ripple of energy that sent a tremor coursing through the cave. Tom stood resolutely beside her, and for a moment, she felt a delicate connection to the Hearttree, a pulse of life vibrating through their intertwined fates. The cloaked figures hesitated, their grip on their weapons loosened, doubt dawning in their eyes. Then, from the back of the group, a soft voice piped up. "But what if there's a way to do both?" The speaker, a young woman with a determined face, stepped into the light. "What if we could protect the Hearttree while also sharing its power?" You would speak of loyalty to a traitorous girl," the cruel figure scoffed. "To unity and a balance that we have only begun to understand," the young woman replied firmly. "In our zeal to protect this place, we have forgotten its true purpose. We risk losing everything if we do not evolve." The old woman, who had been silently observing, stepped forward as well, her gaze piercing. "The darkness you fear is a part of you, of all of us. Power without understanding only leads to chaos. The Hearttree flourishes only in the balance of light and dark." The robed figures exchanged anxious glances, the weight of their choices palpable. It was a critical moment, a fragile thread that could unravel into conflict or weave a new alliance. Lily's heart raced as she sensed the shift. "If we choose to work together," she implored, her voice steady, "we can protect the Hearttree, heal our friendships, and uncover the truth that binds us all. No more division." Slowly, one by one, the cloaked figures lowered their weapons. Tom's eyes gleamed with hope, and the young woman nodded in affirmation, emboldened by shared resolve. "Together," she said, her voice strong, "we can face whatever darkness is encroaching upon us." As a united front began to take shape, a visible tension relaxed in the cave. The old woman offered a serene smile, her dilating presence igniting a flicker of light amidst the shadows. "Then let us unveil the secrets of the Hearttree," she proclaimed. "But know you must tread carefully. The darkness will not take this alliance lightly." The group, a tapestry woven from threads of former darkness and newfound light, stood united before the Hearttree, ready to learn and to fight. "Together!" they cried in unison, their voices echoing within the cave, calling forth the spirits of the forest, of friendship, and of harmony. Little did they know, the darkness would rise again, testing the strength of their alliance. But now, they would face it as a beacon of hope, reborn from shadows into light as the group stood united. The old woman began to guide them through the library, revealing ancient texts and mysterious artifacts that held the secrets of the Hearttree. Tom, now fully embracing his role as a bridge between the Shadow Hand and the others, helped to interpret the cryptic symbols and murals that adorned the walls. The young woman, whose name was Aria, proved to be a skilled researcher, uncovering hidden patterns and connections within the texts that shed new light on the Hearttree's mysteries. Max, ever the loyal companion, remained by Lily's side, his keen senses alert for any signs of danger as they delved deeper into the library. The group discovered that the Hearttree was more than just a symbol of the forest's power. It was a key to unlocking the secrets of the natural world. The tree's energy was tied to the balance of nature, and its decline was a harbinger of a greater imbalance that threatened the entire ecosystem. Their research led them to an ancient ritual, one that had been used by the forest's ancient inhabitants to maintain the balance of nature. The ritual, known as the harmony of the elements, required a deep understanding of the intricate relationships between the natural world and the human heart. The group spent hours poring over the ancient texts, practicing the ritual and preparing themselves for the challenge ahead. As they worked, they began to notice subtle changes within themselves. Their senses grew sharper, their connection to the natural world deepened, and their hearts became more attuned to the rhythms of the forest. Finally, the day arrived when they were ready to perform the harmony of the elements. The group gathered at the base of the Hearttree, their faces set with determination. The old woman, who had been watching over them with a wise and knowing gaze, stepped forward to lead the ritual as they began to chant and dance. The air around them began to shift and swirl. The elements, earth, air, fire, and water, began to respond to their call, manifesting in powerful and beautiful ways. The earth trembled, the air whispered secrets, the fire danced with fierce joy, and the water flowed with crystal clarity. The group's hearts, now attuned to the natural world, beat in harmony with the elements. The Hearttree, sensing their unity and determination, began to glow with a soft, pulsing light. The light grew brighter, filling the clearing and spreading out into the forest, a beacon of hope in the darkness. As the ritual reached its climax, a figure emerged from the shadows, a tall, imposing man with eyes that burned with an inner fire. He was the guardian of the forest, a being of ancient power and wisdom. "You have passed the test," he declared, his voice like thunder. "You have shown that you are willing to work together, to listen to the natural world, and to respect the balance of nature. I will grant you access to the Hearttree's deepest secrets, and I will aid you in your quest to restore the balance of nature." The group cheered, their hearts filled with joy and relief. They knew that their journey was far from over, but they were ready to face the challenges ahead, armed with the knowledge and power of the Hearttree. As they stood before the guardian, they realized that their unity was not just a means to an end, but an end in itself. They had formed a bond that transcended their differences, a bond that would carry them through the darkest of times and into a brighter future. The guardian smiled, his eyes twinkling with approval. "Remember, the power of the Hearttree is not just a tool, but a reminder of the interconnectedness of all living things. Use it wisely, and you will find that the natural world will respond to your call, and the balance of nature will be restored." And with that, the group embarked on a new journey, one that would take them to the farthest reaches of the forest and beyond. They would face challenges and dangers, but they would face them together, armed with the power of the Hearttree and the knowledge that they were not alone in their quest. With renewed determination and the power of the Hearttree at their backs, the group set out to explore the depths of the forest. The air was thick with magic and mystery, and as they ventured further from the Hearttree, they could feel a palpable energy surging through the ground beneath their feet. Tom led the way, his familiarity with the shadows of the forest guiding their path. Aria followed closely behind, her sharp eyes darting around, searching for anything noteworthy among the flora and fauna. Max, ever vigilant, sniffed the air, his instincts alert to any potential danger. Lily, filled with curiosity and a newfound sense of purpose, took in the sights and sounds of the vibrant landscape. As they walked, the group began to notice the signs of imbalance that the guardian had alluded to. Areas where the trees had wilted, their leaves brown and crumbling. Patches of wildflowers that had become entangled in thorns instead of dancing in the wind. The once vibrant colors of the forest now appeared muted, and a sense of unease settled in among them. "This is worse than I imagined," Aria said, gesturing to a patch of withered grass beside the path they were on. "The balance is truly disrupted here. We need to gather more information about what could be causing this." "Look!" Max exclaimed, pointing towards a dense thicket ahead. "There's something moving in there." The group paused, their instincts on high alert. They huddled close together, forming a tight circle, uncertain of what lay before them. A rustling sound broke the serene atmosphere, punctured by brief glimpses of color. Suddenly, a small figure burst from the thicket, a shimmering, ethereal creature no taller than Tom's knee. Its delicate wings sparkled like sunlight filtering through leaves, reflecting a kaleidoscope of colors. "Help, please!" the creature cried, voice high and frantic. "My home is in danger. The darkness is spreading, and it's taken my family." Lily knelt down, her heart aching at the creature's expression of fear. "What happened? We can help you. Please, tell us what you know." "The shadow vines. The tiny creature gasped, tears of shimmering light welling in its eyes. They came from the heart of the forest, feeding off the magic that flows through everything. They are consuming everything in their path. My family was trapped, caught in the black vines, and pulled into the shadows. Shadow vines? Tom whispered, exchanging a concerned glance with the others. We've heard about them in the texts. They're the result of imbalance, when darkness is allowed to fester unchecked. If they've spread this far, then the Hearttree's protection is weakening. Aria completed, her voice grim. We need to act fast. The tiny creature fluttered closer, urgency sparkling in its eyes. Please, you must help me. I know the way to the shadow vines, but it's dangerous. They are cunning, and I can't go alone. Lead us, Lily encouraged, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. We'll help you rescue your family and stop the shadow vines from spreading further. With a flick of its wings, the creature beckoned them to follow. Thank you, but we must hurry. They pressed on, trailing behind the gleaming creature as it led them deeper into the forest. The trees around them grew denser, casting eerie shadows that seemed to stretch and twist unnaturally. The air thickened with unease, and Lily could feel her heart racing with a mix of excitement and fear. Soon they reached a clearing where the landscape changed abruptly. The once vibrant flora succumbed to an onslaught of darkness. Thick, slithering vines crept along the ground, their shadows twisting and curling like serpents. The air smelled rancid, as if rot and decay had taken root. Here! The tiny creature cried, hovering over a mass of inky tendrils coiling around what appeared to be a cluster of faint, glowing orbs. They've captured my family. What can we do? Max asked, fists clenched, ready to fight. We need to find a way to break the vine's hold, Tom said, reaching for the texts in his memory. We need light and unity. We can't take them on separately. It won't work. The Hearttree taught us that. Lily felt a surge of courage as she glanced at her friends. We may be able to use the power of the Hearttree to counter the darkness of the shadow vines. If we combine our strengths, our hearts and our magic, we can create a light strong enough to dispel it. Aria nodded in agreement. Let's form a circle around the vines and combine our energies. This will require focus and support from each other. The group moved into position, forming a tight circle around the shadow vines, standing shoulder to shoulder. The tiny creature hovered above them, watching with wide, hopeful eyes. Taking a deep breath, they each called upon their inner strength and focused on the light they felt from the Hearttree and their unyielding bond. As they channeled their energy, a soft glow began to materialize from their hearts, expanding outward until it enveloped the clearing in a warm, radiant light. The glow intensified, pushing back the creeping darkness that surrounded them. With each heartbeat, the vines recoiled, hissing and writhing as they were struck by the pure light. The gleaming energy surged brighter, illuminating the orbs ensnared within the tendrils. Keep going, Tom shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. We're almost there. Just as the world around them began to glimmer with hope, a fierce wind whipped through the clearing, howling and growling as dark shadows rose up in response to their light. The air crackled with tension, and they could feel the full fury of the shadow vines gathering for one last attempt to hold their ground. But they didn't waver. They intensified their combined focus, sending waves of brilliant light toward the vines. Together, they uttered a unified chant, a triumphant declaration of their combined will. Together in heart, together in light, we stand against the shadows. We shall win this fight. With one final surge of energy, the light exploded outward, banishing the shadow vines into nothingness. The oppressive darkness shrank back, and the tendrils unraveled, revealing the glowing orbs, the tiny creatures trapped within. Now freed from their grasp as the last of the darkness faded, the orbs shimmered into view, revealing the radiant forms of the tiny being's family. They emerged from the remnants of the vines, their wings gleaming with renewed energy. The tiny creature gasped in joy, darting toward them. My family, you did it. Thank you. Lily felt a mixture of exhaustion and elation wash over her, a newfound appreciation for the power of unity in standing against darkness. Together we can face anything, Aria murmured, smiling at her friends. With the family of tiny creatures fluttering around them, their glowing presence symbolizing triumph, they realized there was much yet to do. The battle against darkness was far from over, but this victory served as a beacon of hope, reminding them of the strength they found when they stood united. Let's keep moving, Tom said, determination flickering in his eyes. We need to ensure the shadow vines don't return and to understand what drives this dark force in the first place. The forest still holds secrets, and we have to uncover them for the sake of balance. With their hearts lightened but their resolve solidified, the group, now joined by the tiny creatures, continued deeper into the forest, prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the group ventured further into the forest, they felt a new sense of purpose. The light from their recent victory guided them, and the tiny creatures flitted joyfully around them, sharing their gratitude. The bond forged through the trial with the shadow vines had strengthened their resolve. Together, they were empowered to face whatever darkness lay ahead. As they continued along the winding path, they emerged into a vast clearing bathed in golden sunlight. At its center stood an ancient stone circle, covered in vibrant moss and entwined with delicate flowering vines. The air hummed with a gentle energy, and the group instinctively felt they had stumbled upon something important. In the center of the circle, large stones were engraved with intricate symbols that glimmered as if charged with a hidden magic. "This must be a place of power," Aria said, stepping closer to the stones. "If we can unlock the secrets here, perhaps we can find a way to restore balance to the forest entirely." Tom approached the stones, tracing his fingers along the symbols. "These must be connected to the Hearttree. They likely tell the story of the forest and how to maintain its balance." Together, they began to decipher the engravings. They learned that the stone circle was once a gathering place for those who revered the Hearttree and sought to protect the forest. It held the knowledge of ancient rituals designed to restore balance whenever dark forces threatened. The tiny creatures, now looking reinvigorated, explained that they had heard stories of the stone circle from their elders. It was said that only when the heart of the forest was truly threatened would the circle unveil its greatest power. But as the group pieced together the message, shadows began to stretch around the clearing. A chill swept through the air. The dark force behind the shadow vines was not gone. It was watching and preparing to strike again. Suddenly, the ground shook, and a figure emerged from the shadows. A dark sorcerer clad in a cloak that seemed to absorb light itself, his eyes glowing with malice. He had been the one to unleash the shadow vines, feeding on the imbalance in the forest and seeking to conquer the Hearttree's power. "Fools!" the sorcerer sneered, his voice echoing ominously. "You think you can thwart me? The shadows will consume this place, and I will take the Hearttree's essence for myself." Fear gripped the hearts of the group momentarily, but as they exchanged resolute glances, they felt the energy from the ancient stones pulsing in rhythm with their own hearts. They had faced darkness together before. They could do it again. "Together!" Lily shouted, raising her hands. "We won't let the shadows take our home." The tiny creatures, inspired by their bravery, joined in unison, their shimmering forms adding to the light surrounding the group. With a deep breath, Tom, Aria, Max, and Lily joined hands, channeling all their strength into one powerful pulse of light aimed at the sorcerer. "By the power of the Hearttree and the unity of our hearts, we stand against you," they cried out in unison as their collective energy surged forward. The sorcerer scoffed, extending his arms to counter the light. But the brilliance of their unity struck him with an unparalleled force, breaking through the darkness surrounding him. The light wrapped around him like a vine, pulling tight. "No!" he bellowed, his eyes widening in disbelief. "This can't be." With one final push, the combined power of their hearts erupted in a burst of radiant energy. The sorcerer was engulfed in pure light, his dark form shattering into translucent shards that dissolved into the air, leaving nothing behind but a lingering memory of his malevolence. As silence settled over the clearing, the tiny creatures danced around them, their voices jubilant and sweet. "You did it. You defeated him. The shadows are banished." "But the work is not yet over," Tom said, catching his breath. "We must activate the stone circle. It holds the knowledge needed to reinforce the Hearttree's power and ensure that darkness can't rise again." Understanding washed over the group, and they quickly followed the instructions revealed by the stone's engravings. With the tiny creatures assisting, they performed a sacred ritual that called upon the elements: earth, air, fire, and water. The stones began to glow in response, and the forest around them seemed to breathe as life and energy returned to the land. As the final chant echoed through the clearing, a radiant beam of light shot up from the center of the stone circle, merging with the Hearttree's glow in the distance. The balance they had fought for pulsated through the forest, rejuvenating every corner as colors returned. Flora flourished, and wildlife emerged from hiding. The group fell into an embrace, overwhelmed with a sense of accomplishment and relief. "We did it!" Lily whispered, tears of happiness filling her eyes. Together, we protected our home. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the rejuvenated forest, the tiny creature's family joined them. You have restored not just the Hearttree but all of us, the leader of the tiny creatures said. You are true guardians of the forest now. Recognizing their bond with the Hearttree and its magic, the group vowed to safeguard the forest and its ancient mysteries. They understood that their roles were not just momentary. They were now part of an ongoing legacy, a guardianship that would require vigilance and unity. With the shadows driven back and the Hearttree's power restored, the forest once again thrived with life and harmony. As they turned to leave the stone circle and head back to the Hearttree, they knew their adventure was just beginning. They would explore new corners of the forest, protect the balance of nature, and share their story, teaching future generations about the strength found in unity, the importance of respect for the natural world, and the gentle power of the Hearttree. Together, they would face every challenge, because they had learned that as long as they stood united, no darkness could extinguish the light of hope. And with that, they stepped forward into the twilight of the forest, ready for whatever awaited them next.